Today we're going to be talking to a creator who has a new book coming out. It's called Farm System, and I guess now is kind of the perfect time if you want to check out this book because I guess that there's this thing called the World Series that just started this evening, and I could really care less because my team is not in it. But I guess I love baseball and um, I love going to the games more so. But enough about my my sports. And we're here to talk comics. So I'm going to bring in my guest. It's Rich Koslowski. Hopefully, I said that right. And we'll find out about his book.
You got it very close, Kozlowski. You got it close enough. Yeah.
Well,
Hello.
I used to work with a coworker that had a similar sounding name. So, but
Mine's not nearly as difficult as some Polish last names. Nowhere near as difficult. You're
how's it
welcome.
going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me, Chad. Let's have some fun.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, before we find out about your book, I want to find out a little bit about you. First, I like to ask if you remember maybe the first comic book that you picked up, or maybe the one that spurred your interest in the medium.
I do. I have a very specific memory of the very first comic I ever bought. I can remember it. But the interesting thing is the memory was suppressed for decades. And it was revealed to me in a nightmarish flashback at Detroit Motor City Con. Now, I'd been collecting for decades already. I was in my 30s. I'm at the Motor City Con in Detroit, going through some back issue bins, and the world stopped. My heart, and then I had that tunnel thing, in the movies.
Hmm.
It was Giant Size Superstars #1 with the Thing and the Hulk fighting out in a boxing ring. And I was like, it came flooding back to me. I had this horrible memory when I was a little kid and I was 7 years old, and my dad worked as a manager in the meat department at a grocery store, a PDQ store. He owned the meat department, sublet it from them, and they had a magazine rack up front in the grocery department. And I was going with my mom to the dentist, and we were walking by the magazine rack after saying hi and bye to my dad, and I saw it, that comic book. And I was just like, I've never seen anything like this before. I must have this, that instant attraction. So my mom got it for me for the 25 cents. And we went to the dentist. And on the way there, I was reading through it. I was just hooked. And then I left it on the little waiting room table to go in and get examined. They gassed me. They did a little drilling, and I came out woozy, and I left my comic book there.
Oh.
And then halfway home, oh no, Mom, my comic, I left my comic. And of course, Richard, we're not turning around for a 25-cent comic book. And I was still probably a little under the gas and all that. And that memory, nightmarish, it was all at once the most wonderful day of my life and the worst, because I found comics and then I lost it. Yeah, and I continued on from there. Something must have retained, and I kept buying comics. But yeah, I didn't remember it until like 25 years later when I saw that comic. I was like, oh my God. And then it was, how much do you want for this? Oh, $20. I'll give you 25. Thank you very much.
And so, what inspired you to, start making your own?
Yeah, around second grade, I remember Mrs. Harold's class. No, that was first grade. Miss Glazinski and Miss O'Brien. I remember second grade just being really good at drawing like dragsters, the long, skinny, and then the
Hmm.
tires up front with the little, Rat Fink kind of character that was popular in the 70s coming off the top. And I remember drawing him, and other kids asking can you draw one for me? Can you draw one for me? And I was like, hey, I guess I can. And then I would do that. And by the fourth grade is when I really, kids aren't stupid. We'd hang our art projects up on the walls, and I'd be like,
Hmm.
yeah, mine looks way better than those kids. I'm not just being cocky. It did. It looked better. I'm like, hey, I'm pretty good at this art thing, and I really like it. And I'm drawing the Electric Company magazine. They had Spider-Man in there all the time, and I was always drawing Spider-Man. And I'm still reading comics, but by seventh grade is when everything clicked. I discovered the X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men, and this dude named John Byrne, who I thought at the time was John Byrne. But at that point, I never cared about who wrote comics. I never cared who drew them. I never read the credits. That was boring. I want to get to the action.
Mhm.
But something in the way he drew and laid out a story and the way he and Claremont told the stories, but the visuals just, it just blew my mind. And at that point, I started like, oh, there's names to these. I noticed a difference. And that's when I started paying attention to who the writer was, who the penciler was, who the inker was. What's an inker? I didn't know at that time. I was like, what the heck's an inker? The colorist. So then I started tracking which books I liked the best. And then I started noticing the patterns. Oh, this John Buscema guy. Oh, this Neil Adams guy. These guys are really good and they're my favorites. So at that point is when I knew this was my path. I put faces to name, names to faces and names to books. And I was like, people are doing this and they're getting paid. And this is what I want to do. So by 7th grade is when I knew for sure I was locked in. I got to do this when I get older. The heck with being a butcher, Dad. That's too much bloody hard work. And it's cold. It's cold in the meat cooler.
Yeah. And so let's, again, let's kind of move forward. What besides the book that we're going to talk about, what have you? And I read your little bio in the PR thing I got, but let's a little bit. I know you. Am I right that you did some work with Marvel?
Little bit, but my first, I did a really neat reboot of their Guardian character, or Vindicate. First, it was Vindicator with Alpha
Okay.
Flight, who was one of my favorites, and then he was the guard. Well, then he died. Then the Guardian, and Weapon Omega was the most recent reincarnation of that character in that suit, and I got to work on that character in Marvel Comics Presents, which was super cool. Michael Pointer. Weapon Omega. That was a really neat little job I had for them. It was very fun, and I got to use a bunch of other characters that are my favorites, like Iron Man and some others. The Shroud. I introduced some. I got some, and U.S. Agent. Oh my God, that is the most fun character to write. I never cared about that character all that much until I got that assignment and I was able to use him. I'm like, holy smokes, this guy's the
Hmm.
most fun ever. And a lot of people just really came up to me after that and told me that I did a great job with his character. And I got to do Sasquatch, which was one of my favorites. So yeah, that was around 2006 or 7 that I did that work with Marvel. That wasn't my first big break. My first big break was Sonic the Hedgehog. I worked at a small animation studio near Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we did TV commercials and some other little jobs. And then the owner, Art Mawhinney, started reaching out to companies for storyboarding for Deke and Saban, some of these cartoon companies. And one of them was doing Sonic the Hedgehog. And we were like, what the heck's this Sonic the Hedgehog thing? Is it even going to last? Is it going to be popular? And it ended up being the most popular thing on the planet. But the people at Deke liked us so much, they called Archie and recommended Art Mawhinney and myself to be artists on the comic book. So I worked on that for about 25, 35 issues, number 12 through number 50. So Sonic was my first big break in 92. And then I started doing my Three Geeks comics, and then I started
Hmm.
with Top Shelf. Yeah, but to this day, Sonic, when I tell kids or students, I work part-time at a college. Yeah, I did this, that, and the other thing. And they're like, And I worked on Sonic the Hedgehog. What? Can you draw me a
You,
Sonic?
you would be my 6-year-old hero because he's into Sonic right now.
It's timeless. I can't believe he's more popular than ever now. And it's what, 92 to 30 years Sonic's been around. That's crazy. Longer than that with the video games. And I've never played the video game.
We got out the well, my son got introduced to him because we got out our old Sega Genesis, and yeah, he beat Sonic 3.
All right. He'd kick my
So,
butt, I
but
guarantee you that.
so let's talk about system. Kind of give us a overview of the book, and we'll go from there.
Farm System, my newest. It's my 4th graphic novel with Top Shelf. The idea has been around with me for about 12 years, but I just, for life got in the way and other jobs. And then I did the BB Wolf book, between the King and Farm System, which my friend JD Arnold approached me with and was generous with a page rate for me. So then I put Farm System aside for a while. Then I moved twice, but I would work on it here and there. And Chris knew about it. Chris Staros from Top Shelf. After the King, he asked me what I wanted to do next, and I mentioned it to him. And like I said, things got in the way. But then finally, like 3 years ago, I was like, okay, my life is in order. I can do this book finally. My opus, my big idea that I've been wanting to do for so long. It is, in a nutshell, you did a little intro with baseball in the beginning, talking about the World Series. In addition to comics and music and movies, I really enjoy sports. I play sports, and I always have
Hmm.
watched sports, and baseball has always been my favorite. I love the history of baseball. I love the Babe Ruthian aspects of it. I love the documentaries about it. Ken Burns' documentary years ago, Baseball, just was brilliant. So I started researching after I saw that documentary, more about baseball. I liked watching it, but I wanted to learn more. And one of the most fascinating characters in baseball is Branch Rickey. He is credited with developing the minor league farm systems, where you bring in raw talent and nurture and train these guys under the protective umbrella of the minor league systems with not as much pressure as going right away to the major leagues. And after they develop down there in the farm system for a number of years and they feel they're ready to be called up, they get the call to the big league team. He was also the one who gave Jackie Robinson his first chance in the major leagues. So a brilliant man. But anyway, so I thought, if superheroes were real and they're out there running around risking their lives and wearing these tights and underpants, they probably wouldn't just be automatically brought into the Avengers or the Justice League. It made sense to me that they would probably have some sort of a system like Major League Baseball. And these agents that represent them going to get these guys paid,
Yeah.
because not everybody is Tony Stark or Bruce Wayne that's a billionaire, independently wealthy, who can afford to go out there and do this for free. These guys, if they're going to be getting the crap beat out of them, saving people's lives, they want health and they want dental. I mean, come on, they're going to get their faces kicked in, right? So yeah, I developed this idea for Farm System, and I have a lot of fun with it. And of course, we're not talking about professional athletes. We're talking about people who can shoot lasers out of their eyes, and they're at a different power level. So things, of course, are even more drastic. The drama in the Farm System is even more dramatic. And with my book and story, I also wanted to tell, and I felt it was more interesting to tell the stories mainly about the people who never do get called up, the people who flounder in the system for years and years and years, and just for whatever reason. Maybe they're not powerful enough, maybe they're not good looking enough, maybe they're just not marketable for whatever reason. These are the stories that I wanted to tell. These guys that are in there, guys and girls fighting and training and hoping, and not getting the call, not quite for whatever reason. And then I like to show the lengths that some of them do go to achieve their final fortune and fame. So that's kind of what it's a little bit about, without giving too much away. No
Right.
spoilers.
And so who are the main characters? Who's the main character of the story?
The two main characters, I would say, are the agent that founded the farm system. His name is Alexander Ellison. He was a former sports agent representing athletes, and he's the one who figured out, like Branch Rickey, hey, there's these superhero guys running around out there in this world. I want to start representing these guys. I'm going to start pulling them in and saying, hey, come with me, let me train you and stuff, and let me get you paid. And then as soon as a few of them figured this out, this is the way to go, everybody started falling in line with that system. And some of the guys out there in the big teams were a little miffed, like, hey, we shouldn't have to be paying these guys. But that's today's reality. Like I said, hey, if you
Mhm.
want these guys on your team, they're good people, but come on, they need to get paid. They need representation. I want to get them TV commercials and as much money as I can get them, and set them up in their family and protect these people. The other main character is the gymnast. He is one of your typical overachievers. He's highly skilled at hand-to-hand combat, great leadership abilities, high acrobatic skills, and absolutely no superpowers at all. I mean, he's one of those guys, those street level guys, those not every team needs a guy like that when they have a Superman, a Green Lantern, and Aquaman, and the Martian Manhunter. What do we need this guy for? But teams seem to need. There's always a team that has those kind of guys on it, and I think people can relate to him too. That he doesn't have superpowers. He's just a very skilled gymnast, and he's the one who's been floundering for about 15 years in the system, getting a little taste here and there of the big leagues, but never quite sticking, and then being sent back down, back up and down and up and down. And he's given up everything to achieve his dream of being a major league superhero. Those are the two main characters, and then a bunch of other interesting secondary characters.
And so, how long have you been working on the book? Because it's a good sized book.
208 pages, fully colored, and I wanted to do everything myself. I don't know what compelled me in the beginning to say, I want to do all of this. I want to letter it. I want to write it. I want to pencil it. I want to ink it. I want to letter it, and I'm going to color it myself. Ended up being a lot of work. I worked on this for about, well, like the idea came up 12 years ago. I had about 25 pages penciled and inked and ready to go before Top Shelf and I finally officially made it 2 years ago a contract. And 2 years ago when I got the contract, then it was 1 full year every day, 6 to 8 hours a day, just cranking on this book. And I was highly motivated. So I went, when I sat down and actually start working, I get a lot done. And we got it done in a year after that, like 175 pages, which is crazy. I did have my wife. She helped me out with some of the photoshopping, the flat colors, which was helpful in the end. But I just wanted to do everything one time, just from start to finish, all by myself. And just, I was really proud that I did take it on. But, there was a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of 14-hour days towards the end when I had to get this thing to the printer, but it was well worth it.
I can imagine. Now, um, we've kind of talked about some of your influences. Are there any other, creators that influence your work?
Whoa, I get to ask this all the time. Right behind my computer here, I should have a sheet with all the names, because invariably I'm always going to forget somebody. I mean, I've been doing this, I've been collecting for 47 years. So I've had a lot of influences. Some, Sergio Aragones and some of these other, Don Martin, the Mad Guys, were a huge influence when I was really little. And then as I got older, then I started glomming more onto the John Burns and the Neil Adams, and I think my style kind of meshes somewhere in between,
Mhm.
somewhat realistic and cartoony at the same time. And for as much as I wanted to draw like Neil Adams and be super anatomically correct and all that, that's not how I draw. So I'm really comfortable with the way I do draw now, which is a little more cartoony, like I said, a hybrid of cartoony and
Mhm.
anatomically correct. And it's the way I draw. So I'm comfortable with it. I have fun with it. And it adds to kind of the way I tell my stories, which is always heavily injected with humor, a lot of humor with drama. So I think my style fits it. And as far as writers go, oh my gosh, I again, I'd need an hour to explain all my favorite writers, but just a couple off the top of my head. Peter David, I think, is phenomenal. I think Kurt Busiek is phenomenal. His stuff on like Astro City is amazing. James Robinson, a lot of indie writers like Seth over at Drawn and Quarterly are big influences with me. I like his work. So Joe Matt, that perv, he does some funny stuff. So, but I could go on and on and on and on. The Warren Ellis, Alan Moore. Let's just keep talking. But no, there's been quite a few influences. I'm pretty much of a
Yeah.
historian with comics, and I got tens of thousands of them.
So, farm system, that it's a complete story. It's you don't have any other stories that you kind of want to tell in, I guess, this universe or whatever.
Yeah, it's a 208-page full story. I like beginnings and ends.
Hmm.
I love the graphic novel format for that. I want to tell one big story and have people say, hopefully say that that was cool. And I'm fully satisfied with my purchase and I got a great story all in one sitting. That being said though, with this farm system with all these colorful characters, there is a universe that could have many more stories to go. So we are talking about doing a sequel. It all depends on numbers, how well the first one does, but I have a feeling that it's the so far the early numbers are very solid, which is good to hear. So I actually have been working on Farm System, the sequel. Again, it will be a self-contained story though. So you can buy one and never buy another. You
Hmm.
don't have to buy it to everything.
Yep.
So there's a nice little splash scene from book 2. One of my other main characters getting in a fight
Yeah.
with a baddie. So yeah, I have been working on book 2 with the idea that it'll be going full steam ahead. I've got about 15 to 20 pages done. The whole thing is outlined, and I'm ready to go. Keep this thing going.
I was gonna say, I mean, you are basically creating your own little universe here, which, you know, it's a big sandbox that you can play in as much as you want to.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. Hopefully, it keeps. I would like to do at least 3. Hopefully, I've got some
Hmm.
other ideas that parallel with sports. Book 2 is gonna tinker and toy around with PED abuse, performance enhancing drugs, and a little bit of
Hmm.
politics, but I won't offend anybody. I'm not taking sides, red or blue. I will be straight down the middle and amusing. So there's going to be some political aspects to it, and it's going to be a courtroom, a little bit of a courtroom drama, a little bit of lawsuits going on, more of that seedy underbelly in pop culture.
Nice. I mean, is there anything else that maybe we haven't talked about, mention about the book or anything?
Uh, y- with all of my stories, I want them to be impactful and relatable. So, in addition to you reading, or hopefully the other people reading this book and seeing what these characters go through, I want the connection. It's very important for me for them to feel like that's how I feel at my job at McDonald's or in comic books,
Hmm.
why is such and such a superstar or got the managerial position and I didn't? My own career in comics, I was always like, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong all those years? And I hear that from hundreds of other people I've met at comic book conventions, these wonderfully talented, amazing people. And they're just like, I just haven't gotten my big break yet. But I'm working and working and working. And then it's just that hope that all of us have that we will get discovered or get that call. So I think the most important thing
Hmm.
with my book farm system is that it connects with the readers and they see themselves in there as these as these characters overachieving, just trying to be something better than they are and make their lives better. So that's the main goal when you read it, and I hope that that resonates
Hmm.
with people.
If you'd like to give kind of like a quick pitch of the book and where people can find you on um, social medias if you're on there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we got visual aids here. The amazing book is called Farm System. Look at that poor guy. There he is in the dugout. He's, looking a little sad. Um, it is dropping in stores November 8th from Penguin Random House is my distributor. It will be in comic book stores nationwide. But if you can't find it there, you can go to Top Shelf Comics website and get it through them, or you can order it directly through my website, richkozlowski.com. And if you order it through my website, I will do a personalized sketch in there of one of the main characters along with the autograph. And they're not crummy little
Nice.
sketches. I put some effort into them. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can find it at those places. I'm also on Facebook. So yeah, I'm always putting posts up there, and hopefully, oh, and I do a ton of shows. So I'll be in Madison November 5th and 6th, Madison, Wisconsin for the QuadCon. I'm doing several of those. The Iowa MiniCon November 12th. I'll be out doing a little book signing tour on Thanksgiving weekend. I'll be at Krypton Comics in Nebraska or Sioux City, Nebraska. And then I'll be at Mile High Comics, Denver, Colorado, the big Mile High megastore. And then Saturday on the way back, Acme Comics in Sioux City, Iowa. So I'll be out there a lot, doing a lot of dog and pony shows.
Nice.
Yeah.
And do you have any, are you reading anything currently? It could be comics, it could be anything, you're really enjoying and think that people should check out.
I like buying like boom, 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 boom of trade paperbacks or whatever collected so that I can do a lot of reading all at once. And I just finished like a 3 trade paperback run of The Authority, which is one of my favorites. And this Warren Ellis started it, but Ed Brubaker took on the writing chores. He's amazing too. And oh my God, anything that he and Sean Phillips do together, you just know is going to be amazing. They've got a grasp on just the crime pulp noir feel for comics. It's just incredible. I also just read Peter David's the whole Maestro thing with the Hulk. I think that is the best. He's the best Hulk writer ever, and that Maestro look at the future Hulk is just wow. It gives me the chills whenever I read those. So those are the things I've just recently read. Oh, and I'm filling in all my Thor back issues. I go on binges to the shows and go through and just get all those 70s Bronze Age, filling in all my Bronze Age holes. Thor, the Avengers, Batman. So I'm constantly buying and reading stuff. But yeah, those are a few that come to mind.
Oh, good. I want to thank you for the time you took this evening to chat. And when book two comes out, I would love to talk to you again, or if you ever have anything else would like to talk about, then you're more than welcome, and always fun to talk.
I appreciate it, Chad. Yeah, anytime you want to talk, whether it's even about my books or other books, I just love talking comics. That's my favorite thing. We've got the best hobby in the world.
And the most not, I wouldn't say the most expensive, but
Nah. No, I would say like those sports fans who have to go to all the games. That's way more expensive.
uh, yeah. I mean, I enjoy going to sports games, but I rarely do anymore.
At $12 a beer, that's kind of a $20 to park, $12 a beer. Ouch.
we took our we took our son to Legoland the other weekend. It was $15 for a beer. Land.
Ouch. Did it come in a Lego cup?
No.
Oh man. It's crazy.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for your time. We'll definitely people should definitely check out the book
Thank you.
when it comes out on November the 8th, and uh, everybody should be sure to check out my other videos here on the channel. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on. I guess I'm on TikTok now. I don't know. but all my links are at the end of this video. So follow me, follow Rich, read his comic, read comics in general. So thank you again, and have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.